So we're continuing the fight between Sukuna and Maki in this chapter, and at the end of it, Sukuna straight up does a freaking black flash to Maki. It's a pretty incredible sequence, and it's a little more nuanced than I thought originally. And it's also the first time Sukuna has ever performed the black flash. I know, kind of surprising considering that he is, the king of curses and pretty much the god of Jujutsu. You'd think that he would have did it already, but no, this is the first time. And of course, when we get to it, we'll break it down and explain everything that goes into it. But of course, there's other things that are going on in this chapter because it's actually opening up with a flashback to, I don't really know when, maybe sometime around season 1 territory, because Nanami is still alive and he's like, looks like 26, 27-year-old Nanami. But we see the sorcerers having a conversation about who the strongest grade 1 sorcerer is. And it's Mei, Nanami, Gojo, who, again, flashback, so he's still alive. And Kusakabe's there as well. So Mei says it's probably Kusakabe, and Nanami agrees, but also says depending on the situation. And that's interesting because that's going to come into play at the end of the chapter, because Kusakabe is going to be taking on Sukuna. But then Gojo says probably Kusakabe, but probably changes if you include the 3 great houses. Now I'll also get into what Kusakabe says, but it's interesting that Gojo brings that up because it's very valid. So let's also go into who the grade 1 sorcerers are. So as far as we know, it's Nanami, Mei, Todo, Kusakabe, and Principal Masamichi. Now, aside from them, there's another ranking that's kind of parallel to grade 1, I suppose, and it's called special grade 1. And I guess it kind of is like the sorcerers outside of Jujutsu High. And these are more so lining up with what Gojo was talking about, like if you throw in the head families. So Gojo family is kind of just Gojo, so that doesn't really count at this point. But we also have the Kamo clan, who I guess doesn't have any special grade 1 sorcerers, or at least that we know of. But the Zhoniin clan certainly does. In fact, all of the special grade 1 sorcerers are a part of the Zhoniin clan. So we have Naobito, his son Naoya, Junichi, and then we have Maki's father Ogi. So throwing them into the mix, I guess Naobito could in theory be the strongest grade 1 sorcerer. Maybe, I don't know. Junichi is kind of ambiguous, but he winds up getting killed by Maki. So it doesn't really matter because Maki doesn't even get a grade rating. But I guess she'd probably be special grade, especially considering how well she's doing against Gojo. But again, this is also not taking into account the training that these individuals have received, mainly just Kusakabe, because he has gotten a serious buff just like the other sorcerers during that 1 month time skip. Like, he was able to survive some slashes from Sukuna with his reinforced cursed energy, which he certainly didn't have beforehand. But anyway, the conversation ends with Kusakabe himself saying, well, someone other than me and Usami. Now, I don't know if this is the perfect translation here, but I don't know who Usami is, because I don't think there has been a character introduced in this series by the name of Usami. So there's 2 options. Either Usami is a new character that we haven't been introduced to yet, which would be incredible, and they are a grade 1 sorcerer, I guess, tied to Jujutsu High in some way. Or the more realistic option, which I don't want to get your hopes down, but it might be Mei's like first or last name, because we don't know Mei's full name, unless it's like Mei, like her first and last name are the same word, but it's probably Mei. But I hope it's a new character that just comes out of nowhere and it's like, hey guys, sorry I haven't been around for 253 chapters, but here I am. Here's my cool curse technique. But I digress. So we're coming back to Sukuna taking on Maki. And, at the end of the previous chapter, we found out from Urarame, who was taking on Hikari, that Sukuna apparently still isn't even really trying, even though in this chapter he says that he's been looking forward to facing Maki. Regardless, he's still not fully trying trying. So we still haven't seen Sukuna at full power, and it kind of makes sense considering that he does do the freaking Black Flash here, and he kind of does it purposely too. And I know what the narrator said about the Black Flash. We'll get into that, don't worry. But we get this pretty cool fight sequence here where Sukuna's still bare skin blocking Maki's sword strikes, the soul-splitting blade that she has, and he winds up like throwing a car or carving up the bridge that they're on with cars coming in between them, and Sukuna's like hiding behind the car as it's like flying, and he's shielding himself, so he throws like a dismantle at Maki through the car, and she's able to avoid it, but she winds up getting knocked into a building. And as she's being thrown like through the glass down like a hallway, Sukuna's like already coming behind her through the perpendicular hallway in a really cool sequence here. Can't wait till this is animated. And this is essentially game over. Like, this would have been the death of Maki because he winds up just touching her and is about to do like a contact cleave to her. You know, the same technique that we've seen him do to Yuji like 2 or 3 times at this point in the last couple chapters. But before he can like do the deal, Ino shows up in the building somehow, just as fast as they were. I guess he was already in the building, like he knew that the fight was going to come in there. And Ino is using his innate technique, which is Auspicious Beast Summon. And the one specific one he's using in this sequence is called Kaichi. It's kind of just like a drill horn type thing that just, I guess it like locks on to the person and, you know, goes after them like a seeking missile or something. But Sukuna kind of just like disregards it, and it looks like he almost redirects the cleave or the dismantle, I guess in this case, that he was intending for Maki, and he shoots it at Ino. And Ino, you know, just like Kusakabe, you know, we were talking about in the previous chapters when Higuruma was still alive, is surviving this, like reinforcing his cursed energy enough to be able to survive this slashes from Sukuna. Still, Sukuna not at full power, of course, and using his own cursed energy to pump his heart and, you know, heal himself as well. But still pretty impressive from Ino, but he just gets stomped and knocked out of the building, so he's benched. That's going to be a recurring theme in this chapter, just Sukuna benching everyone instead of just killing them. I guess he's bored with killing people or something at this point. He kind of just wants to knock them around. But Kusakabe comes back in because, as we've been seeing Ino, you know, so far in this arc, he's been using Nanami's blunt cleaver curse tool, which now actually has Nanami's curse technique built into it, the 7-to-3 ratio. And he didn't have it. Like we said, he was using Kaichi against Sukuna, and Sukuna realized that. He's like, you know, where was that cursed tool? And it's like, oh, Kusakabe has it, and he's on the floor above Sukuna, and he comes down with it on top of Sukuna and hits him with a 7-to-3, but Sukuna just blocks it and then just knocks Kusakabe away like he was nothing again, momentarily benching Kusakabe. And it's like the 7-to-3 curse technique is really supposed to get around this type of situation because it creates a weak spot. You know, 7-to-3, it breaks you down a third one, creating the critical hit spot on the opponent. But Sukuna's just like, nah, I don't care. I don't care. I'm just blocking it. But we're coming back to him taking on Maki again because she's coming back into the picture after he blocks that. And she knocks Sukuna like through what looks like some office space in this building. And she's doing like what Sukuna did to her, like knocking him forward, but then coming around super fast and catching him on his back. And while she's doing this, she has like this inner monologue thinking like, you know, even if Kotsu was saved, more problems will come out of this if this fight keeps going on. So her bringing up a Kotsu here, whether he is alive or if he is saved, still 50-50, just like Higuruma and Gojo. But I think if anyone is really going to survive here, it really seems like a Kotsu is, because his injury was super fresh when Yui was able to save him. Also, Rika was still alive carrying him. Now, I don't know how that relationship really plays out. I don't know if a Kotsu dies, then Rika dies, like the Shikigami aspect of Rika, or she can like live on afterwards as a curse, because, you know, that's a whole thing. If you die, then the curse becomes even stronger, and curses can live on after you die. So who knows really what's going on with that, but it seems like Akotsu is going to survive here, especially from this dialogue. But real quick, guys, the Patreon Q&A is finally back. If you ever had a question that you wanted to ask me and also have it featured in a video that will be on the channel weekly, well, here's your chance. You can sign up by going to the link in the description. It'll give you instant access to the Q&A thread. And also, I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much. And Maki says that she's going to take down Sukuna in this sequence, but of course she doesn't, because it is true that Sukuna hasn't really been going all out. But the narrator comes back in and he says, after the death of Gojo, Kashimo, Higuruma, and Akotsu, they all pretty much entertain Sukuna in the realm of sorcery. Now, interesting that the narrator is saying death. I don't know if it's literal, but, you know, going back to 50-50. Kashimo, I'm pretty sure he's not coming back. I think Kashimo, if anyone is dead, he's definitely dead. Unless Yui picked up his slices off the ground and then they could put them back together like a puzzle or something. But going further, the narrator says, but the one that stirred Sukuna's desire the most was the heavenly restricted Maki. Now, you know, this is interesting because the others, you know, they were straight up sorcerers. They interested Sukuna in that realm. And this is like, I guess the first time Sukuna has fought somebody with heavenly restriction. I mean, there's not many of them. There's only 2 known instances of heavenly restriction in the story so far. It's Toji and Maki. Heavenly restriction being that you have 0 cursed energy. Therefore, it makes you like a superhuman, because even like regular humans have a little bit of cursed energy in them. And heavenly restriction itself is not fully explained. I don't even know if the people in the Jujutsu Kaisen world even know how it works. It's kind of just like an anomaly, I suppose. Unless it's going to be revealed later on for some reason, why it runs in the Zhoniin clan, I don't know. But Sukuna gets more amped up and dodging these pillars that Maki like kicks at him. He winds up grabbing Maki in the face, and he essentially could have killed her at this point, but he only winds up just like cleaving a little bit of her face on the side. Like, he could have just taken her head off in this sequence, right? But I don't know. Maybe she avoided it at the last second, I guess. But they're coming out of the building again, and Sukuna says that, you know, she's not half-hearted like Yuji. She is true nothingness, which is kind of true. Now, before I thought he was talking about heavenly restriction, but I guess he more so means her conviction, because she straight up killed her family and the entire Zhoniin clan, or at least the warriors, the ones that were actively fighting her. I don't think she killed like the innocent family members that didn't really have anything to do with killing and stuff. But yeah, she is cold-blooded, probably the most cold-blooded good guy in the series. And Sukuna starts liking sorcery and heavenly restriction to like sorcery being skin and meat, and then heavenly restriction, the body, as he refers to it here, as like bones and brains. He's saying like, okay, which one is better here? We're gonna find out. Is it heavenly restriction or is it sorcery? And it's like, we kind of know the answer to that, unless heavenly restriction can somehow become even stronger than it already is, because in my opinion, Maki has already surpassed Toji for no reason, but she has. I don't think Toji could have done nearly as well against Sukuna, at least based off of how he went down against Gojo. And after Sukuna says this, like, he's pretty amped up, like he's genuinely excited, the most excited we've seen him since he's been fighting Gojo, I guess. And after he says the whole thing about, you know, which will be stronger, Maki realizes that he's stopped healing himself with the reverse curse technique. And when I originally read these spoilers, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But no, he's doing this on purpose, because this is when he hits her with the black flash in a pretty crazy sequence. So he stopped using reverse curse technique, healing himself, probably even beating his heart too, possibly, because that's what he needs to do to use Black Flash. Because, first of all, I think the narrator said when Black Flash was first introduced that no one is capable of using it at will, but you can do it if you try, which I know is kind of confusing, especially considering that Nanami was able to do it consecutively multiple times, which kind of conflicts with you doing it at will, but it is what it is. But to do a Black Flash, you need to, like, I guess, concentrate, right, on it to the most that you're able to concentrate. And Sukuna diverting all of his attention and focus and cursed energy into delivering this Black Flash is how he was able to do it. Like, he even stopped healing himself. So the Black Flash itself is kind of like an anomaly as well, just like Heavenly Restriction is in the Jujutsu world. I guess it was also referred to as like a phenomenon, where when you land a physical strike at like 0.00001 seconds of that hit landing, you apply cursed energy at that right perfect moment, then suddenly it flashes black like what we see, and then the power of that strike is equivalent to the normal hit that you would have delivered to the power of 2.5. So that's pretty wild. It's not like times 2.5, it's to the power of 2.5. So for example, let's just say Sukuna's regular hit power with a punch that he's landing would be like 10. It's obviously not, but let's just say it was. So if it was 10 to the power of 2.5, that means it would now be 316. Like, that's how insane Black Flash is. So we've seen, other people use it throughout the series, Yuji Mahito, and then most recently Gojo and some others. Imagine how strong Sukuna's is, because Sukuna's already the strongest. I mean, he's obviously not at full power right now, but even at his weakened state, his punch is already stronger than most, if not everyone. Aside from Gojo. So that to the power of 2.5, you can imagine what he is doing to Maki here. Like, he is wrecking her. Now, I don't think she's killed, because it would have been more emphasis put on it in this sequence if she was, but she got destroyed by this. And if anybody is benched right now, it is her. Now again, Heavenly Restriction, maybe she can come back from this faster than somebody else. But again, a Black Flash from Sukuna is going to wreck you, whoever you are. Like, you're going to have to be down for at least a couple minutes. I mean, come on. So Maki's going to be out of the picture for a little bit here. And that was actually like a Sukuna that was trying. Like, he was amped up, excited. So after he takes out Maki, he starts walking. Who knows where he's going to go at this point? I guess looking for survivors possibly. But we see Kusakabe, who's back after getting knocked away by Sukuna earlier. And he's looking down and he's like, oh man, I'm the last one here. It's like, what about Yuji? What about Choso? What about Meimei? Oh, she's definitely not going to come out. And, speaking of Yuji, we saw him with Choso, and they were like helping each other heal, or at least Choso was helping Yuji heal, like teaching him how to reinforce his own blood manipulation in combination with his reverse curse technique to fully heal himself, something that he was lacking before that. Like, he wasn't healing himself properly. So, they're having their off-panel recovery time right now. Obviously, they'll be back soon, but for now, it's Kusakabe that has to take on Sukuna by himself. And he's like, if there was absolutely no way to win, I would have just retreated, but having come this far, I have no choice. So I like it. I like that Kusakabe, even knowing that he's probably going to die here, not even probably, for sure is going to die here, is still going to take on Sukuna. And this is also like his retribution, like him redeeming himself for the Shibuya incident that he was involved in with Sukuna. Because when Sukuna came out, he was like, don't move or I'll kill you, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. And Kusakabe didn't move. He was terrified, rightfully so. But now he's like, I can't be played like that again, especially, all the training I went through, and this is like, the end-all be-all fight. Like, I have to stay here. I have to fight against him. And also, like I said, it comes full circle into the beginning of the chapter when Nanami said, depending on the situation, it might be Kusakabe. And the situation, I suppose, is the one that is depending on right now. And Kusakabe is going to do some wild stuff here. Like, I don't think Gege would set up this cliffhanger just for Kusakabe to get instantly destroyed the way that Kashimo was. So Kusakabe is going to do something crazy here, I think. I'm not saying he's not going to die. He probably will, because everybody has died so far, allegedly. But he'll at least do something pretty cool. But real quick, guys, could you please follow me on either TikTok or Instagram, whichever platform you prefer to use. I try to upload TikToks and Reels every day. I'm also trying to get to 10,000 followers on either of those platforms. So if you can help me with that, I would really appreciate it. I'll have the links in the description. Thank you so much, guys. But let me know in the comments what you think he's going to do. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.